The mail carrier walks up the driveway, and something in your dog goes off like an alarm. Full volume, full body, throwing itself at the window as if the fate of the household depends on the next 10 seconds. Nothing is actually happening. A stranger in a uniform is delivering a harmless envelope, and yet your dog is prepared to defend this house with everything it has. Calm in crisis, safety in siege, living in the exact same living room at the exact same time. And that's the part worth sitting with for a second. Your dog isn't overreacting to a mail carrier. It's answering a call that's thousands of years older than the mailbox. For a long time, we treated this as a training problem, something to correct with enough repetition and enough treats. But watch closely, and the behavior stops looking random. The same route walked along the fence line every morning, the same spot by the window checked before every nap, the same sharp shift from relaxed to rigid the instant a stranger. To understand why, you have to imagine a world where territory wasn't a legal concept, it was survival itself. The ancestors of your dog lived and hunted in groups that depended entirely on a defended area, a stretch of land with enough food, water, and shelter to keep the group alive. And a rival group or predator crossing into that space wasn't a minor inconvenience. It was a direct threat to everything the group had. Cats tell a similar story from the opposite direction. Solitary hunters who couldn't rely on a group for backup, which meant a defended territory was the only safety net they had, and losing it to another cat could mean losing access to food entirely.
That instinct didn't fade once shelter and food stopped being scarce. If anything, it sharpened. Generation after generation, the animals most sensitive to boundary crossings were the ones who protected their resources most successfully. So the trigger got tuned tighter and tighter, until a single unfamiliar sound at the property line was enough to flip an animal from resting to fully alert in less than a second. That sensitivity didn't require conscious evaluation of the actual threat. It simply needed a boundary and something crossing it. Researchers studying attachment in dogs have found that the same hormone involved in human parent-infant bonding, oxytocin, spikes in dogs during positive interactions with their owners, which is part of why a home doesn't just feel safe to a dog. It registers as something closer to a den, worth defending, with real emotional weight behind it. That bonding is also part of why.
And here's where the past quietly collides with the present. In the wild, a boundary crossing usually meant a real, escalating threat, something worth committing real energy and real risk to confront. Today, that same full alert response gets triggered by a delivery driver dropping off a package that was ordered on purpose. The stakes disappeared almost entirely. The alarm system didn't get the update. This is where the story gets a little harder to laugh off, because that constant state of alert has a real cost. Veterinary behaviorists have linked chronic territorial reactivity to measurably elevated stress hormones in dogs, the same kind of physiological wear you'd expect from an animal bracing for conflict on a near daily basis. What looks like an overprotective pet is often an animal running a genuine threat response cycle dozens of times a week for threats that were never really threats at all. And in the most severe cases, that constant reactivity gets labeled as an aggression problem, rather than what it actually is, an ancient defense system stuck permanently switched on.
And that reveals something a little more moving than a nuisance behavior. Your dog isn't choosing to treat a mail carrier like an invading army out of confusion or bad manners. It's fulfilling what its ancestors would have considered one of the most important jobs an animal could have: defending the group's territory with total, uncompromising commitment. And it's doing that job
with just as much devotion now as it would have 10,000 years ago, even though the danger it's defending against essentially doesn't exist anymore. In a strange way, that makes even the most overprotective pet